Welcome to Money Clearly, the podcast that explains everyday money without the mystery. I'm Bridget Gale, and each week we break down the money questions that come up in real life, at work, at the bank, and at home, so you can understand what's actually happening with your money. Today, we're talking about cash flow smoothing and why timing, not behavior, is often the real source of stress. For the first time in a while, it feels like things might get easier. You see your income go up. Not by a lot, but enough to notice. Maybe you got a raise. Maybe your partner got a new job. You feel hopeful. You start imagining a little breathing room. Nothing extravagant, just less tension. You even decide to wait a few months before counting the extra. But a couple of months go by and it still feels tight. The extra never quite shows up. And last month actually felt worse, especially when everything seemed to hit just before you got paid. And now you're confused. The increase was real. The restraint was real. Your spending didn't really change. So why doesn't it feel any different? You start paying closer attention, even though nothing obvious is wrong. You check balances more often. You replay conversations with yourself. You wonder if you missed something simple. There's a strange mix of relief and pressure. Relief that more money exists somewhere in the month, and pressure because it never seems to be here when you need it. That gap can feel unsettling, like you're always slightly behind without knowing why. It's easy to turn that confusion inward, to assume you're overlooking something basic, or that everyone else has figured out a rhythm you somehow missed. Not because you were careless, but because the stress keeps showing up without a clear explanation. Nothing unusual happened. Life just lined up the way it always does. Bills cluster at the beginning of the month. Rent, utilities, subscriptions. The paycheck lands a few days later. The amounts haven't changed, but the timing makes that first stretch feel tight before things settle again. In other weeks, groceries and gas fall after most of the last check is already spoken for. A kid needs something. The car needs something. The next paycheck is coming, just not yet. Some months feel easier than others, even when income stays the same. 5-week months quietly ask more of your pay than 4-week months do. A few extra days stretch the gap, and suddenly the same pay feels thinner. Not because anything changed, but because the calendar did. For people paid twice a month or once a month, the pressure can feel heavier. You're not just covering a few days until the next check. You're mentally stretching your money across weeks, hoping it lasts all the way to the next payday. For people with uneven or infrequent income, the money is real, it just doesn't arrive evenly. Bills stay predictable, income doesn't. Some weeks feel flush, others feel thin, even when the totals balance out over time. And then there are the automatic payments. Subscriptions and utilities clear quietly before your paycheck hits, creating that familiar feeling that money disappeared, even though nothing new or unexpected actually happened. In all of these versions, no one overspent. No one made a mistake. The stress comes from when money shows up, not from what anyone did. Now imagine the same lives, same income, same bills, same obligations, but the pressure doesn't bunch up as sharply. The tight days don't stack on top of each other in the same way. There's less of that familiar squeeze before payday. less mental math just to get through the middle of the month. Bills are still due, nothing disappeared, but they don't arrive at moments when everything else feels fragile. And for the first time, those extra dollars you expected to see actually start to show up. Not as a windfall, just as quiet confirmation, a little more staying put instead of slipping away. The difference isn't more money, and it isn't less spending. It's that the timing feels calmer. The month moves forward without those sharp spikes of stress, not because life got simpler, but because the pressure is spread more evenly over time. What you've been feeling has a name, and naming it changes how you understand the stress. Cash flow smoothing means making your money feel more even over time, so everyday bills and necessities aren't determined by the exact day your paycheck lands. It's the idea of reducing spiky weeks where money feels tight and creating a steadier experience as you move through the month. At the center of this is a timing mismatch. Income arrives on a schedule. Obligations arrive on a schedule. When those schedules don't line up, pressure shows up, even if the total amount of money is enough over time. That's why stress can exist without overspending. Why restraint doesn't always translate into relief. And why feeling bad with money here isn't a character flaw. It's what happens when timing, not behavior, is doing the work. Cash flow smoothing doesn't change how much money you make. It changes how evenly that money meets the calendar. This week, write down when your money comes in and when it goes out. Ignore the amounts, just look at the dates. Look at the calendar and notice where the pressure points are. No fixing yet, just noticing. Thanks for listening to Money Clearly. And as always, hearing what's confusing helps me know what to cover in future episodes. In the next episode, we'll talk about what actually makes the calmer version of cash flow smoothing possible. Not by earning any more or budgeting any harder, but by using a few simple structures that help money meet the calendar more evenly. New episodes come out weekly. And until next time, take care of your money so it can take care of you. This podcast is for educational purposes only and isn't financial advice. Always consider your own situation or talk to a qualified professional before making financial decisions.